Hippo.
Okay. Why?
It's the hippopotamus. You ever seen a hippopotamus?
You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to the AVIT Amplifier. As always, I am Ryan Gray, and I am your host, and we are back for the traditional week 2 with Adrian from Nureva, or just Adrian from the world, who, if you missed last week, let me tell you, step one, go back, pick up last week, because he drops one of my favorite Neil deGrasse Tyson quotes, and you won't want to miss out on that. But would you remind everybody? So first, thank you for coming back and being with us again. And would you remind everybody who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I'm still Adrian with Nureva. My title is Director of North American Sales here at Nureva. I am everything from a giant computer geek to a semi-audio nerd. I also love to cook. I'm quite good at it.
Okay. So you said that at the beginning of the last one, and I held that because we definitely need to dive into that. But first, I want to ask you something, which is, I think probably the way I met you the first time was, and dear God, it hasn't even been a year yet since the last Infocom, I think. But, you know, in one of the things that I've loved picking up is being able to host the show floor tours for the learning spaces things at Infocom. And one of the reasons is most people who sign up for them, it's, you know, you sign up through Avixa as part of Infocom. And so it is mostly people who are coming to their first Infocom that would see that as an option and go, yeah, that sounds good. You know, I want to learn about things for learning spaces. I'm intimidated by the volume of what's there. Let me sign up for that tour. And so I love being able to connect with people that are sort of just jumping into it. And then you have to pick and choose and find booths that have things that, you know, would be interesting to them. And you did such a great job with that this last year. That it was, like, I don't know. I want to throw to you because I could talk the whole time and I have a guest for a reason so that people don't just listen to me talk. But I would say you did such a great job with it compared to some of the other ones we went to. So I'm curious, like, if you know you've got a group like that coming to see what you've got, what is your approach to making connections or talking about what you have to offer?
So I'm a big believer in the concept of talking with people. And if you listen to a lot of people in jobs like mine, they will tell you, oh, they love talking to customers. I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to my friend. I was talking to my customer. And the way I try to approach it, and one of the things I try to work with my team on is don't talk to people, talk with people.
Mm-hmm.
Because by talking with people, you learn more, right? You understand a little bit more about their perspective. And to be perfectly frank, when it comes to Infocom, I am overwhelmed by the choices on the floor. Like, it's too much. How could you ever pick? And I have talked to people who say Infocom should be 10 days long because I can't get
Right.
through it in three
Yeah.
days. I can't. It's impossible. And so I try to empathize with that, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're all people trying to do the job, learn what we need to do, complete a task, be awesome at whatever it is we're achieving, whatever your goal is. That goal is likely to be achieved through other humans. So what I try to do is understand that first and build anything I'm doing around just connecting as a person with
Mm-hmm.
whoever I'm talking with, right? So when you brought that first group of like 40 people over and you
Mm-hmm.
still had your voice, it was really easy to riff off of one another
Yeah.
because you and I had sort of formed that quick bond.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time when you came and you couldn't talk like at
Mm-hmm.
all, then you just let me talk. I said, okay, I got to make sure that I'm talking to folks who are a little bit like Ryan, but who are way overwhelmed and who are looking to just learn something that they can squirrel away and ask
Mm-hmm.
me questions later.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we're trying to do is plant that, I don't want to say that seed, but plant an idea that, like, that Nareva booth was cool. I'm going to go back there. And
Mm-hmm.
point of pride, a lot of them came back after you brought them by, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a one and done. And that's the goal, because they're going to go see 40 other booths. They're going to forget 30 of them, right? 10 are going to stick for whatever reasons they have. And I'm just trying to make it so, or we're just trying to make it so that we're one of the ones that sticks. And you do
Nice.
that by being human first.
I think that so. For any other manufacturers or service people out there, like you just heard the primer of how to answer that question, which is how to get people to come back. How do you break through to being one that, that people remember or follow up on after the trade show and that sort of thing, where, and it is that like I mean, I know in the last episode, you didn't mention one model number. I don't even know that in that visit to the booth, it was like, here's the specs on the some odd model number thing, and that makes such a difference for people looking, because people come looking for solutions to problems. So to hear why something is really going to be helpful to them is a whole other experience. So that's awesome.
It's not to say that the specs don't matter, but the problem matters first, right? If I have the absolute fastest car on the planet, but I'm sailing from Vancouver to Taiwan, that car's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I need a boat.
Yeah, exactly. And you need I probably have told this on here before, and I won't mention the manufacturer, but we were a couple years ago, I was filming a booth tour that, and I don't mind throwing him, the person leading was BC Hatchett from the thing. And so I've got the camera and he's walking a thing through, and it was one of those like, the number one, and it's up to this many lumens and this many, and this is the XG, whatever, it was, we got done. And when he looked at me, he went, he's like, I was just at one point praying one of those projectors was just going to fall and hit me in the head and put an end to that thing right there. Because what information are we bringing to people by doing that? You know what I'm saying? When you talk about things that are easily Googleable, but now I've got a face-to-face connection with people. They're right here at the thing. How am I going to use that in communication rather than so? Anyways, thank you for what you did on that, and well, look forward to doing it again, because
Can't wait to do it again. It was fun.
Exactly, and it's the sort of thing that when I look at organizing those things, the people pay to go on that. Like they're paying.
Oh,
money.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's what I'm saying. This year, it's $149 to go on that tour this year. We have got to deliver them something of value. They need to walk away with that much and more of value so that, and so thank you for helping me do that. Thank you for helping, these things before. You know what I'm saying?
Just to add some additional value, I will currently right now offer to anyone the crispest high five you could possibly imagine on the show.
Definitely do that. That's awesome. Okay. Thank you for that. Well, I had to go down that road on that because like I said, it was a standout thing. And one of the reasons, you meet a lot of people and you go, who are the people I really need to make sure I keep up and connect with over time? And it was like, okay, you find those people that are like, okay, they're people first, and that's where solutions come from. So that's awesome. Down that vein. And I get interesting answers to this because people will assume one way or another, but are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh, I think I would be lying if I said I'm an introvert. I am an extrovert. I really enjoy talking with new people, meeting new people, doing things. I do get tired. I'm also, it's my birthday today. I'm also one of those people who is feeling those years. So, around 9, 10 p.m., I'm like, that's enough socializing for today. But I love people's stories. I love connecting with people about kind of whatever they want to talk about, because I see it as an opportunity to learn something new or to bond over something we both like, whether it's books or TV shows, whatever.
That's awesome. Well, happy birthday. And I'm so I'm so pumped. You chose to do the show on your birthday. That's awesome. I love it. So congratulations. Happy birthday. And I hope you have a great evening planned. And then, but yeah, to add on to that, I think there are people who feel like, well, yeah, I do like talking to people, but I can't do it forever. None of us can do it forever. It can be really exhausting being an extrovert because sometimes you need that to gain energy, but there's times where it's a little bit of a catch-22 sometimes. So,
It absolutely is, and everyone's expecting everybody to do everything at 100%. And
yeah,
I want to be the person out there saying, you know what, 98%, good on you, you got there.
yeah, exactly. So we extroverts be loud and proud about it. I have a lot of
Yeah.
people that say, I know they're an extrovert, but oh well, I'm like, don't beat around the bush. Be proud. It's okay to be an extrovert. Uh, the other thing you said in there was like, like talking to people, learning about them, and you said like talking about what's interesting to them.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like someone who'd make a good podcast host to me.
I don't have the time or patience to be a podcast host. I would love to try it one or two times, but I don't feel like that's the kind of thing I could connect with to over the long term. A pretty complicated life outside of the camera, right? So
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for guys who can pull this off, guys and girls. I listen to a ton
Mhm.
of podcasts. I love
Yeah.
good podcasts. But I just like the time and effort that goes into doing it and doing it well, right? Because anyone can start it. One of the challenges with podcasting is anyone can start it, right? But to do a really good one takes intentionality that I just, I might be an extrovert, but I'm not a good planner.
Yeah.
Just
Well, that's
put it that way.
the same with me. Yeah. The consistency is important in it. And I'm the same. It's almost like if you were going to set one up, having a format in which you do a single recording, but split that into 2 episodes would be a
Never heard
good
of
way
anybody
of
who does that. That's a really
exactly.
good idea, though.
Maybe was an acknowledgement of the challenges of keeping up certain paces. And yeah, no, you're totally right about that. So that's well, I'm the same way. I love to talk to people about like, there's nothing more fun than when somebody else is really excited about something to just feed off that, to feed off that energy, which I love. And then sort of one other follow up on that, which is you live in Canada
I do. I live
and
in
it's
Alberta.
freezing cold up there. So
Well, not
the
today. It's like
snow is
50
always
degrees.
blocking you from like going out and doing stuff. So when are you going to just like admit that you should move to the desert or something like that?
That's an out east problem.
Mhm.
That 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 becomes more difficult by the hour, Ryan. Let's just leave that exactly where it is.
Yeah.
But I have always been a winter kid. Now I have explored living in the U.S., but I have only ever looked at three cities.
Okay.
So I looked at Minneapolis because
Mhm.
it feels like Canada.
Mhm.
I looked at I forget what it's called, but it's in northern Montana. It's like a 4 hour drive from where I am right
Mhm.
now, south, because it has mountains and it has lakes and I am a big outdoor guy. I love to camp and stuff. So Montana hit,
Nice.
and I looked at Seattle, but I very quickly realized that I don't work for Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks, or Netflix, so I can't
Exactly.
actually live there.
Right. So legally, I don't think you're allowed to live there
I'm
if you don't work for
pretty
one of
sure you
those.
have to get a permit from one of those
Yeah,
four, and I
exactly.
wasn't going to get one.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Well, no, I love and yeah, like um it's talking about it being cold up there when I mean where I am we do get snow but not that much, but so I always like to give people a hard time about that because I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so I'm a summer person, you know what I'm saying, and it's
I have been in Phoenix in July. I have cooked an egg on the sidewalk, and
yeah,
as a proud Canadian, I'll tell you, no thanks.
yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean if you go to Infocom you're hitting Vegas in June or Orlando in June, so that's just like
It's it's
dry
no
heat and
Phoenix,
wet
man.
heat. Oof. Yeah.
It's no Phoenix. Phoenix is an animal unto itself.
Yeah, this is why I left. We moved. We moved an hour and a half north of Phoenix to about the elevation of Denver. You know what I'm saying? Like
There you
northern
go.
Arizona. That's what I'm saying. So okay, enough of them about me on that. So a question I always like to ask. So you've got this history of like working in technology, like you said.
Uh-huh.
Working for an IT reseller, coming in, you think you're going to a SaaS company now, and it turns into AV under like you're doing all that. So, but in the version of the multiverse in which you don't end up working in technology, what do you think you would have enjoyed doing?
I would be a boat captain on the ocean somewhere. I
Mm.
am ridiculously into the ocean and water and all things fish related. Anytime I'm in Atlanta, I make a pit stop to the aquarium. I have spent 8 hours in that aquarium just working in front of that giant wall that they have. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. I love the ocean, and I would do that, and I would cook fish all day, every day.
That's awesome. That blew my mind. I've never thought of that before. Like, go to the aquarium, you put yourself in this environment of things that you love and just work from there. That's genius.
I mean, anyone in Nareva's listening, this is not career advice, but if you can find a place to do something you like, and I am fortunate, I love what I do
Mm-hmm.
around the stuff that you also like, it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, right? The dream is combining those two things, but if,
Right.
if you haven't figured that out or haven't been able to for whatever circumstance is yours, then combining them is just as powerful.
Yeah.
So that day was an incredible day. Like it's quiet, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost nobody there on a random Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do calls as long as you're quiet. It's
Mm-hmm.
super therapeutic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have like, as an extrovert and somebody who, like, there are places and times where I just need to, where, like, I'm behind. There's things I need to get cranked out, and sitting in my office is tough to do. But go to a coffee shop or someplace where a happy hour is going, like, there can be other people around. It's what airplanes, like, I am so productive on airplanes in this weird way because, like, there's other people around, but I don't necessarily want to get in conversations with them. And so it creates a level of focus that I have a hard time making on my own. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I love that. Just like having that, like, go to the aquarium and do that. Cause people go sit at the park or other places. Like, I just love that we have the freedom to do it, but that's a great, I hadn't thought of that. That's awesome.
It's the same vibe, right? If you like the park, go to the park. If you like the coffee shop, go to the parking shop. You and I are gonna diverge pretty heavily on I'm productive on a plane, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever works for you, right? That's fascinating.
Yeah, because it's one of those things. Like, I love to travel. I love to travel. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, hustling through a busy airport to just make it to the plane on time is like an adventure of excitement. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always kind of up and in my element already. Like, we're going somewhere, even if it's someplace that you've already been. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just I've
Like
never
Orlando.
gotten over, like, you know what I'm saying? Starting the day in one city and ending the day in another city in a way. And I always think, like, how only a couple hundred years ago, like, that would have been an impossible, that would be considered the Star Trek transporter. And now we just take it for granted. Like, so it's a place where there's already dopamine going. And so it moves. So, like, yeah, if fish is that thing, go where the dopamine is already going to be going anyways and become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, see, you never know what great advice you're going to get on any given day. You know what I'm saying? If you're just not afraid to ask those questions. Love it. Thank you for that. Okay. So, I would dive into like 6 things on that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, then we'd be here all day, and that's what happened.
would be.
So this is something that you need you to think carefully about before you answer, which is,
Okay.
what is the scariest animal?
The scariest animal. It's the hippo.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why?
It's the hippopotamus. You ever seen a hippopotamus?
Only the little part of one time, because that was the only little part you could see.
Yeah. They're gigantic. They can crush a melon in their head,
Mhm.
so you have no chance. They're super fast on land and in the water.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the hippo.
I think that's a good answer. And
Yeah.
because also, like, stealthy, like, live underwater, you could be surrounded by them and not necessarily know it right off the bat, you know?
They live on 2 continents, right? So
Mm.
South America and Africa, right? They were imported into Colombia.
Interesting.
They're a huge problem, apparently. They kill more people than like crocodiles or something. I was reading a wild
I've
article
heard
about it.
that. I've heard that's it. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the hippo.
that's a great answer. I haven't gotten that answer, so I'll take it. It also begs the question of who was the one that said, you know what we need to put on the boat with us on this next transatlantic voyage? Some hippopotamuses.
I believe it was one of those drug guys from
Yeah.
Colombia.
Oh, he's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I forget which one, but I'm pretty sure that's how that happened.
a status thing. Like, I'm going to build my own.
I'm gonna build my own zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but what, you know what? You can't trust hippos. Then it just gets out of hand. You can't control them.
That's right. There's a whole book about But Not the Hippopotamus by Sandra Boynton. Like, you don't write that book if hippos are trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's their world and we're just borrowing space in it. You know what I'm saying? If they wanted to take us over, you know what I'm saying?
I love that. I, for one, welcome our new hippopotamus overlords.
Overlords. Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people probably better the hippos than the future AI overlords we're going to have. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. It'll be fascinating either way.
All right. All right. Philosophical question for you.
Oh,
Are,
okay.
are people generally good with a proclivity for evil, or generally evil with a proclivity for good?
I am a disgusting optimist. People are good with a proclivity for evil. It is far more common, and I have traveled a whole lot. It is far more common to meet someone you have more in common with than you do have something or less in common. You just have to be willing to speak and listen and find those spots.
Yeah. So how does that then how does that mindset affect how you move through the world, make decisions, and form relationships and things?
So I recently had a pretty important change in my life that shifted this perspective pretty widely. But I like the idea that the world you see is a reflection of what you put into it. And so I am recently converted to the idea that if you put positivity out, you will get positivity back.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It, when people say that, it reminds me of an episode of this show that I did with Jordan Scales of Crestron, who's my Crestron rep. And he just had articulated such a clear vision for how that it's like, and he was using the word vibes, like the vibes and the things that you put into the world, and that, it's such a, like, when you really drill down, like there's such a fully formed way of like changing thought process that can actually change your circumstances by really like adopting that. So I love that answer. That's awesome.
Maybe a cheesy line, but a boss I worked for early in my career, a guy named Rob Mills, who lives in Toronto right now. Shout out to Rob Mills.
Rob Mills.
Used to say, and it is cheesy, your attitude determines your altitude. And for years and years, I would just roll my eyes. But for the last 2 years, I'm like, man, there's some truth to that.
Yeah, they're like, it's funny how over time there's things you hear that like you dismiss, and then you come around and you're like, oh, they weren't just saying that. That is actually, they were trying to say. And so now I find myself at times people like, no, I actually mean it. Like, and they're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, you're going to have to learn it yourself, aren't you? Dang it. But I know what you mean. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's awesome. All right. I love this question too, which is actually you kind of just answered it. So maybe we'll disqualify that answer, or you can use it if you want to, but what's something that you've recently changed your mind about?
What's something that I've recently changed my mind about? Aging.
Okay.
Easy answer because it's my birthday. But
That's true. Happy birthday.
I used to be terrified of time because I thought there would never be enough. And I like I said, I had a pretty big change. I talked to you about it in person the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given me a chance to look forward with renewed optimism and hope and positivity about not just my life, but everyone around me. So
Yeah.
that's my answer, aging.
That's a great answer. It's like there's a kind of a deficit viewpoint like that, and everyone's there's, I don't know. A movie. There was a movie one time where like the amount of time you had to live was like on a clock on their arm, and I think in the movie that was like money or something. Like the currency was this.
What
thing.
movie is that? I'll Google it later. But
Yeah,
wow,
I
that
don't
sounds
remember.
cool.
What I remember is I think it's like Justin Timberlake or something like that in it. But I remember that like that feeling, and there are people that have that feeling of just like every second the thing ticks down, everything that ticks, and you come from a deficit standpoint, and so yeah, aging is it's an interesting thing to deal with, isn't it?
It is.
All right, I have to get your secret on that here. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right. If you were going to book a vacation, you could just book a vacation right now. Where would you go? Who would you go with?
I would go to Baja. I would go swimming with whale sharks,
Mm-hmm.
and I would take my good friend Benjamin Repper with me, who's in Montreal.
That's a very specific thing. Okay, so is that because it's something that you've done before, or it's kind of on the list of things you would like to do?
on the list of things I'd like to do.
And that's a Baja, you mean like Baja, California, like
Yeah,
Cabo
the
San
Baja.
Lucas.
Yeah, exactly. The Baja California. Apparently, that's a good place to go and
To go
see the
do
whale
that.
sharks. You got to time it right. I'm not up to speed on that, but that's
Mhm.
where I would go and what I would do.
That's awesome. So
That
yeah,
or the Maldives because it's a French colony and I could speak French and blend in like a local, which is always fun.
ah, okay. So you speak French.
I do. Well, I was born in Quebec, so
Yeah, that's true. So you know what I'm saying. So you're a on the French side of the French English divide in Quebec.
Mhm. And I'm
Okay.
learning Spanish at the same time.
Ah, por supuesto.
See, I'm not there yet.
Okay. Well, we'll have to. I growing up as close to Mexico as I did, there was a lot of there's a lot of Spanish speaking
A
around.
lot
And
of,
I was
lot of Spanish in Arizona, right?
Yeah, and I was pretty good at it in high school. I took 4 years, and then the problem is then you kind of forget that you're not as good as you used to be, and then you jump into a conversation, say in Spain, where you're going to try and explain something to somebody and realize that you can't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I don't know enough Spanish to have this conversation.
exactly, like, oh, I've gotten way too deep into this. I've created a problem now
See,
because
that's the exact kind of adventure I was talking about, right? Some
exactly.
people would have that happen and be like, ah, what a terrible experience. And you can laugh at yourself and then talk to that other person and tell them your story. They'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
well, let me help you figure that out.
right, exactly. It's just like I charged into this with the confidence of a middle-aged white man. You know what I'm saying? And really ended up, getting reset on that. So, okay. Same last three questions for everybody.
Okay, I'm ready.
Third to last question, which is, what is a question that you wish you would be asked, but nobody ever asks?
Wow. That's a good last question. This is like the Colbert questionnaire.
I may
Question
have
that,
cribbed a
so,
couple from him, but let's not point that out to people.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
A question that I wish I would get asked more often is, I don't even know.
Okay.
What a great question. You stumped me. Pass.
Well, it's
No
like,
points.
I think regardless of what people's response is, it's a valid response. So so then let me dive in. Is it because you feel like you have opportunities to talk about and express things that you want to? Like there's not something burning, because every once in a while I ask that question and people have it right there, right? And usually what it means is it's like there's something about me of value that I think people don't know or aren't interested in, or something like that. I read into it. So is it that, or is it just like,
I live in such a conversational world that there are so many questions that I get asked and that I get to ask from that
Mhm.
perspective of learning and making a new connection that I just can't even come up with something.
Okay. Well, then let me substitute this then for the third to last question, which is, you mentioned that you like to cook.
I do.
So there's two things, which is, first, what is your favorite thing to cook and why?
Uh, Walt Disney's version of Ratatouille from the movie Ratatouille, because the
Mm,
preparation of it is extremely therapeutic. You got to cut a bunch of stuff really small, and
yeah.
it comes out and it looks amazing. And because of the way you arrange it, when you take the top off the pot, the steam comes directly up in a little reverse, like tornado. It's rad.
Yes. I love, so
Looks like
I'm such, oh, look at, there it is. All right. People, you have to go to nice. You've got to go to the YouTube so you can see it. That's awesome. I love it. So here's the geek in me, which says, to me, that is such an AV answer, which is twofold, which is one, the preparation, right? So all the pieces, I have to get all the things right. And you even use the word therapeutic. So like you said, a design, you're recovering designer, right? I get all the pieces and parts right, but in the end, it's the experience. It's the experience of what happens that makes the value, right? And the steam comes out just the right way. So I don't know. I love that answer. I thought that was really good. Okay. All right, then, we're going to run long. What is something that you're working on cooking? Like, what's something that you know, would like to make, or you're working on trying to get perfect?
Like from a cooking perspective, it's
Yeah.
my baking. I'm a terrible baker. I'm
Okay.
trying, but I'm
Okay.
bad. I can't even make cookies.
Well, no, I don't believe that anybody can make cookies.
No, I somehow can't.
Okay. Well, I've got you on that because sometime so my wife is an amazing baker. And when I say like versatile, can do anything, but she makes like, like the style cakes on shows like Is It Cake? Like where something looks exactly perfect.
That's cool.
The show notes of this one, I'll drop my wife's Instagram because what you'll see are things that she like. It is amazing. So next time there's something you're like, I want to bake this thing, you let me know. And there's going to be like, she's got a tweak or a secret or something like, here's how you alter this thing in a certain way. And it's going to make it come out perfect. So
I love that. I can't wait. I
all
can't
right,
wait. I'm
I
excited.
got you on that. Okay, second to last question for everybody is if people wanted to find, get connected to you or make contact, what is the best way to reach you?
No one's gonna like this answer, but it's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not anywhere really. I'm on LinkedIn, because I like to be on LinkedIn. I've super reduced my social media presence.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like LinkedIn is becoming kind of the only one that I'm like. Other things have posts and stuff, but as for looking for information about people, like I don't know.
I'm on Reddit. If you want to find me on Reddit, we can
Ooh.
talk about that. But like my email address is adriandoughty@nareva.com. Hit me up. I'll say hi. I'll say hi to anybody. I'm weird like that.
I love it. Get linked up with him. And I will say, looking at your LinkedIn here, this picture, I don't know. I think we may need to, your hair looks
It's
a little
old.
different or something like that.
It's like 20 years old.
Oh, here's the worst part. Mine isn't even a real picture. It's an AI generated one taken from pictures of me that are younger and thinner than I am now. And it's gotten so off. I'm just like, God, what lie am I living? I need to update that thing. So what are you going to do? So, all right. Yes. Everybody go find Adrian on LinkedIn and make sure you keep up on, what he's cooking. Okay. Final last question, which is, the kind of the old style newscasters in the US used to have like a sign off phrase. The famous one was good night and good luck, or hosts of things will have their, the way they close their show. So what is Adrian's drop the mic sign off phrase?
Talk with you soon.
And how do you know that you will be able to talk with people soon?
I don't. I just like the positivity that goes there.
Thank you for listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Join us again for next week's episode when we'll welcome a new guest who you'll want to hear from. We promise. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.